I love the look of marble, especially on planters, but they can be really pricey. So to recreate this look, you're going to use any pot. The one I'm using for this DIY is a terracotta pot. I'm gonna spray both sides of this planter with a matte white spray paint. To create the marble effect on your planter, you're going to get a tub of water. You're also going to need some sea glass spray paint. The one I'm using is a gray color. The sea glass is just a lighter version of spray paint. You're gonna spray the spray paint on the top of the water, mimicking the look of marble. Then you're going to take your white planter and dip it straight down in and pull it straight up. This is going to give you that marble appearance on your planter. From there, you wanna wipe the spray paint off the top of the water. You're gonna repeat these steps all the way around your planter. So add your spray paint to the top of the water, dip it in, pull it out. Once you get it all the way around, you're gonna let that completely dry and you can add your plant of your choice. I found this air plant at Hobby Lobby that I think looks perfect. One of my favorite projects that I've done in the past is get a really pretty jar, a mason jar typically, from Dollar Tree and turn it into a soap container. I did it in the fall with a pumpkin jar, and I recently found these gorgeous jars at Dollar Tree and thought they would be perfect for it. So you want to pick up any jar. You also want to pick up a container of soap from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to remove the lid from the jar and I'm going to start using my wire cutters. I'm going to poke a hole in the middle of my lid. Then I'm going to go on the inside of the lid and use those wire cutters to pull back the metal. Now you want to do this very slowly. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take the lid out of your soap container, remove the inside tube portion, and then you're going to place the top of the soap container onto your jar. The key is you want to pull the metal back until this top of your soap container will fit onto the lid, but you don't want to go far enough that you see the openings. I kind of just pull the metal a little bit and try to put it on there and just adjust it until it works out great. To attach the top of your soap container to the lid, you're going to use a little bit of E6000. I'll spray paint the lid with a Rust-Oleum hammered finish spray paint. Once that dries, I'm gonna fill up my jar with the rest of the soap from the soap container I had before, or you can use any soap that you have. Now, I think anytime you can put your soap container on top of a tray or elevate it, it just looks so much nicer in your bathroom. So I found this wood piece in the craft section at Dollar Tree. I also picked up some of these little tiny wood cubes, and that's what I'm gonna use for this next project. I'm gonna hot glue the wood cubes to the bottom side where it's smaller on all four corners of my tray. I'm gonna stain the wood with a color called Golden Oak. I use a foam brush and I paint it onto my tray. Then I will take a paper towel and immediately wipe off any excess. Let that dry completely, and I'm gonna show you how I style my tray with my soap on top. I'm also using a candle from Dollar Tree. If you love recreating high-end looks for less, consider subscribing to my channel. I post new videos on Mondays and Thursdays. Next, we're going to be making a tray. So for this DIY, you're going to need some sort of plate. I'm going to use this black plastic one. You're also going to need some nautical rope. And my favorite new thing that Dollar Tree has out are these large wood rings. I'm going to start by hot gluing my nautical rope to the center of my plate. I'm going to continue to wrap the nautical rope around, hot gluing it in place. Now, a trick here is you want to make sure that you put the rope really tight together so that you don't see any of the plate underneath. Once you get to the edge, you're going to wrap it around the back and hot glue it in place. Next, I want to connect my wood rings so that they will make a barrier on the side of my tray. So I grab some of my black macrame. I'm going to hot glue that to my wood rings, wrap it around 3 times, hot glue it in place, and cut off the excess. When you're adding that black macrame, make sure you don't do it too tight because you want your wood rings to be able to bend a little bit. I'm going to repeat this step all the way around. Once I get all my wood rings added, I'm going to connect it at the end with one more piece of black macrame. I'm gonna set the wood rings on the top of my tray, and I'm gonna use a combination of E6000 and hot glue to attach them to the top of my tray. Now you can use this tray anywhere in your decor. Pinterest put out a list of their top projected trends for 2023, and they said mushrooms were definitely gonna be a popular item in home decor this year. So I wanted to do a project with mushrooms. I went to the thrift store, I found 2 glass bowls that were decorative, and then I also found 2 vases. Now the trick whenever you're picking up your vases is you want a vase that is smaller on the top and gets a little bit wider at the bottom. You can see I had 2 different variations to it, but they both are gonna work for this project. So the first thing you have to do is remove all of your stickers, and then I rinsed and cleaned these vases really well and made sure that they were nice and dry. Then I used some E6000 and I put it on the top portion of my vase. And then I'm gonna set my bowl on top. And then I repeated those steps for my other vase. Now you wanna let your E6000 sit overnight because it does take a while to set up. You could definitely paint these if you wanted. I love the look of them with the clear glass, and I'm gonna show you how I styled them in my home. I'd love to know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know what you think of this decor trend. Let's do another easy wall art idea. So you're going to get a board from Lowe's or anywhere, and you want it to be 12 inches wide and about 3 to 4 feet long. I'm gonna mark the board so that I cut pieces that are 12 feet long. So I'm just going to use my tape measure and then mark it across with a pencil. I'm gonna cut on the lines with my miter saw. So I'm just going to cut the board one way and then I'll flip it over and cut it the rest of the way. I find this is the easiest way to cut boards. I'm gonna cut all 3 pieces. I wanted to add some holes to the top of my board so that I could put some florals in there. So I'm gonna use my drill to drill down some holes, and I picked my drill bit based on the size of the floral stems that I was going to use. And at the top, I'm going to drill 3 holes in the middle. Once I have all of my holes drilled, I'm gonna come back in and sand the boards anywhere where I had, pieces kind of hanging off from where I had to cut them. Also, I like to sand the front of my boards before I stain them. I'm gonna use the same color golden oak. I'm gonna brush it on with a foam brush and wipe it off with a paper towel. Once those dry, my last step is to add in some eucalyptus florals. I have this garland in my stash, so I'm gonna cut off 3 pieces and put those in the top where I had made the holes. Now to hang these on the wall, I'm just going to use some command strips on the back, and I'll place them together in a row. And here's a look at how this wall art turned out. Candles around your house can really help to elevate your space. So I'm gonna show you how to make one really inexpensively. So you're gonna need a glass jar. This could be one that you thrifted or one you had around your house. You're also gonna need some wood beads and floral wires. So I'm gonna start by bending the end of one of my floral wires, and then I'm gonna lace on the beads. I'm gonna add as many beads that will fit all the way around my glass container, and then I'll tie it off in the back. I want to continue to add beads to my glass container. So I'm actually going to count how many beads that I put on, and then I'll continue to add the same amount of beads, wrap those around and tie them in place. And I'll do this until my entire glass container is filled with beads. I'm going to cut off the excess floral wire. Then I'll flip my glass container upside down, and then I'm gonna add in hot glue to the bottom of the container. Let that dry, and then you can add in a candle of your choice, and here's how it turned out. I was excited to find these bead wreaths. Now these are definitely a new item. They come in 3 different versions. There's a natural wood one. They also have like this mid-tone stain and then a darker version. I'm gonna get the mid-tone wood color, and I picked up 2 of these wreaths. And I'm also going to be getting at Lowe's some plywood. I just got a small board that I could use for this project because I wanted to make a tray. So I'm gonna start by putting my bead wreath down on my board, and then I'll trace a circle around it. And I magically cut this out with my jigsaw. I wanted to stain it. Now I wanted to go with a darker stain for this board, so I picked one of my darker wood stains. I put on 1 coat of stain with a foam brush. I'm gonna wipe off the excess with a paper towel. Now after I did that, I realized this stain was not dark enough, so I actually came back in with another coat, let that sit on for just a minute or 2, and then wiped off the excess. If you wanted it darker, just go in with another coat of your stain. To construct my tray, you're going to need E6000 and 2 of these wood wreaths. I'm gonna put a layer of E6000 all around the edge of my tray, and then I will place down my first wreath. Then I added E6000 to each and every one of my beads and put my second wreath on top. Now there was 2 metal portions to where the bead wreath connected. I put those right next to each other. Then I had some faux leather twine, and I'm just going to hot glue that onto those metal pieces and start wrapping it up just to cover up that metal, and then I'll add some hot glue to hold it in place. That just kind of finishes off the tray. And here's a look at how I styled my tray. Have you ever wondered how to get the look of a textured vase that you see on so many high-end sites? Well, I'm gonna show you how in this next DIY. You're gonna start with a vase that you would pick up at the thrift store. Now it's up to you what shape you wanna use. Next, you're gonna add in nautical rope. You're gonna start at the top, hot gluing. You're gonna add your nautical rope all the way until you get to the bottom. Make sure when you're adding it on that you don't leave any gaps, and you try to get it as close together as possible. I wanted to add blue paint here, so grab your favorite paint color and add a thick coat of paint to your nautical rope. Let your paint completely dry. Now to give it even more texture, I'm gonna come in with some watered down white paint. I'm gonna brush that onto my vase and immediately wipe off the excess. This is just going to give me a hint of white on my vase, and I love the way it turned out. I really don't like to spend a lot of money on bathroom accessories, but I definitely want to have that high-end look. I found this set on Pottery Barn's website, and I really love the stone texture to it. You can definitely recreate that with Dollar Tree items. So I picked up a soap dish, a soap container, and a glass jar that I thought would work perfectly as a toothbrush holder. Now I'm gonna start with spray painting these, which is kind of like a chocolatey brown color. I spray painted the underside, and then I flipped them over and did 2 coats on the top. Once that dried completely, I came in with a special spray paint. This is like a stone textured spray paint. And if you guys are having trouble finding your spray paints, I actually picked this one up at Home Depot. I feel like Home Depot has a really large selection of spray paints, so that's a good store to keep in mind if you're not able to find these spray paints at maybe your local Walmart. With this stone spray, you want to use very minimal, but you're just going to spray maybe 1 coat on each side of your piece. If you want it to have more of that stone texture, you could always go back in and add additional. And you want to let this dry the same way you would your spray paint. Once everything was dried, I put the lid back on and styled it in my bathroom. I always love a unique planter, and when I saw these wood planters on Crate & Barrel's site, I knew I could recreate them. So at Dollar Tree, they have several wood pieces that you can pick up. I found these 4 larger ones, and then I also found a pack of wood pieces. So this is going to allow me to create 2 different planter sizes. Since the wood pieces are already cut out, you don't have to worry about cutting them out, and they're in the shape of a square. So I'm gonna use a combination of E6000 and hot glue. The E6000 is going to give me a long-lasting hold, but that hot glue is going to give me that immediate hold so that my box will stay in place. So I'm going to add E6000 to the back side of one of the squares, and then I'm going to try to add in the 2 side pieces along the edge. Then I'll add the same E6000 and hot glue to the back piece, and then I'll put it on the back, creating 4 sides to my planter box. I'll also do that with the smaller side as well. Now, to mimic that look of that fluted texture that you see on the Crate & Barrel ones, I went to Lowe's and picked up this piece of trim. It's kind of like a fluted trim piece. They sell it at most of the big box stores. So with my fluted trim piece, I just measured it out so that it was the length of my box. And I needed to cut 4 pieces, so I had a piece for each of the sides. So I cut it out in the morning. Actually, I think I had my husband cut it out before I was getting ready to run out the door in the morning. But I needed 4 pieces for the larger box and 4 pieces for the smaller box. And then all I'm going to do to attach them is use, again, that combination of E6000 hot glue, and I'll put it on the front side and then on each of my sides. I did measure to make sure I was getting it centered up on the first one, but then for the rest of them, I just, kind of eyeballed it to get it in the center. And I did that for both of the boxes. You can add in a real plant or a faux plant. Here's how it looks in my living room. If you'd like to watch more DIY videos, I actually have a second channel called Liz Fenwick Daily, where I post short videos daily. So that's a great channel to check out, and I'd love for you to subscribe. So you're going to pick up 2 frames at Dollar Tree. These are 8x10 frames. I also picked up 2 of their black floating shelves. Now, I've actually never used these before, so I was excited to try them in this project. So with your frame, you're going to remove all of the contents, the glass, everything. I'm also going to use my wire cutters to actually pull out the metal backing pieces on the back of the frame. These come out fairly easily. Then take the plastic off of your floating shelves, and then I'm going to use some E6000 on the edge of my floating shelves, and I'm going to place them on the front of my frames. Now, I want to do this so that I have a little bit of area at the bottom as well as a larger area at the top. Now with my second frame, I'm going to do the exact same thing, making sure I put my shelf at the same height on both of the frames. Now with E6000, you want to let this dry completely overnight, just so it has a really secure bond. And then you can use command strips to hang these on the wall in your bathroom. You can also put anything you want on top of here. I styled them 2 different ways with 2 different Dollar Tree vases and succulents. So I picked up a sample. That's kind of one of my tricks. If you want to use paint in your home decor, just get a sample of it and you can use it for all your different projects. So when I was at Dollar Tree, I found these 3 vases, gorgeous, but I didn't like the color of them. I wanted them to be a little bit more matte, a little bit more modern. So I'm going to use my foam brush to paint 2 coats of the Reden Point sample paint that I got onto these containers. I'm gonna let them dry between each coat, and I love the way the color turned out. I'm gonna show you how I styled them on my tray in a grouping of 3. You can add in florals if you want to as well. Now, I bought these containers at Dollar Tree. They're pretty easy to find over in the kitchen section. I got 2 of the larger ones and 1 of the smaller ones. I'm also going to be using 2 of the wood rings that you can find in the craft section at Dollar Tree. And I'm going to start by sawing these in half. I used a hand saw that I had on hand, and I just elevated the rings and cut them down the middle. And then I'm going to be using E6000 to attach my rings to the top of each of my containers. Once the E6000 has a chance to dry, I'm going to be using a metallic finish spray paint by Rust-Oleum. I'm going to spray 2 coats on the top of my containers. I'll let that dry completely. Then you can add anything either decorative or useful in your containers that you want to put out in your bathroom. I'm going to be adding in some bath salts with the pink ones and some other bath salts that I had at my home. And here's a look at how the containers turned out. So next I'm going to show you how I created this really minimal wreath that's perfect for this time of year. So I'm going to be using a wreath form from Dollar Tree. You can get these at most stores. I also picked up a bundle of wool off of Amazon, and I'll link it for you down in the description box. I opened up the package and I'm going to cut 2 strips to go around my wreath. So I roughly put it around the wreath. I made sure it went about 6 inches past my wreath. And then I did 2 pieces that I could double up. So I'm gonna start at the top of my wreath, and I picked a color that matched my wool. So I got out some yarn that was kind of an ivory cream color. And I'm gonna cut off a piece of that, and I'm gonna tie it so that my wool is attached to the top of my wreath. I did a triple knot on the back of all of my pieces of yarn. So once I had it tied in place, I just cut off any excess. And really when I'm done with this, you're not even gonna be able to see the yarn that I put on there. So then I roughly measured this. I did not measure it exactly because I wanted this wreath to look very natural. I'm gonna cut off another piece of my yarn. I'm gonna go down about 3 inches. That's about how far I put them apart. And I'm going to tie some yarn, making my wool a little bit scrunched up. I wanted it to look kind of like a ball on each of my little sections. And I'm gonna tie the yarn in the back, cutting off the excess. I'm gonna repeat those steps going all the way around my wreath, making it about 3-inch sections. Now, once I got to the top of my wreath, I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this look continual? So what I decided to do was actually take the yarn, cut off excess, leaving about 2 inches, and I tucked it underneath, and I decided to just hot glue it in place. So I had the appearance of that ball shape that I had all the way around, but you wouldn't be able to see where I tied off any excess. And here's a look at how my wreath turned out on my wall. One of my favorite things to do is look on high-end websites like Pottery Barn and see what decor items they have and recreate them with Dollar Tree items. So when I saw these coffee table trays, I knew I could definitely recreate these with Dollar Tree items. So from Dollar Tree, I picked up a large plastic tray. I also got another plastic plate and then some other plates they had in the party section. I only wanted 3 trays, but I actually ended up making 4 because I wasn't sure exactly what heights I wanted to use. Now for the base of these plates, I was going to use these wooden dowels. Now these originally were probably from Walmart, but I've had them for so long in my craft room, I just used the ones I already had. For each of my trays, I'm going to use 3 legs as a base. So I used my miter saw to cut down 3 so they were the exact same height. Now, as you can see from the Pottery Barn picture, this tray had varying heights, so I kind of just staggered the heights. I knew I wanted the larger tray to be the smallest, and then I staggered the other heights as well. Once I got all of my wood pieces cut, I'm going to use a combination of E6000 and hot glue to attach them to the bottom of my trays, and I put the legs on in a triangle formation on the underside of my tray. let that dry completely, and then I came in with my spray paint. It was kind of this bluish green color. I love the way this color looks, and I got this spray paint at Home Depot. So I'm gonna spray the underside of my tray. I actually did one coat on the bottom. Once that dried, I flipped it over and I did 2 coats on the top. Now, I still was spray painting 4 trays because I figured I would just make all 4 and then figure out which ones I wanted to use. I wanted to give the edges a little bit of definition, so I used a black rub and buff color and just took a foam brush and put that all around the edges. That was really easy to do, but I think it gave it a little bit of definition. I picked the 3 that I wanted to use and I laid them out in the center of my coffee table and styled them with decor I already had on hand. This next DIY is perfect for elevating your kitchen. So you're gonna need any cutting board. The larger, honestly, the better. And you're gonna need some wood box. I actually found mine thrifting. I'm gonna cut the box in half using my miter saw. I'm gonna add wood glue to the back side of the box and I'm going to position it onto my cutting board. I'll flip the cutting board over and add in some screws to hold it in place. I'm gonna let that wood glue dry completely and then you can add in any plant of your choice. I thought these air plants were the perfect touch and you can hang this in your kitchen. Made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Comment the word of the day, which is DIY. So I bought a plastic succulent tray at Dollar Tree. This is typically over in the party section. You're also going to need some nautical rope. They sell this at Dollar Tree, but I typically buy mine off of Amazon. I'll link it for you down below. So if you've seen any of my rope tray videos before, you know I love making a rope tray. This one's a little bit different. So I'm gonna start in the center by hot gluing the rope in the very middle, and I'm going to wrap it as tightly as possible. As I go around, I'm gonna continue to add hot glue. The trick that I like to do when making these rope trays is you want to make your rope really tight together so you don't have any gaps. That's going to make it look so much more high end. I'm going to continue to add glue all the way around. Also, when you're putting your glue on, make sure it's a nice thin layer because you don't want a lot of glue sitting up on top of your rope. Trust me, it's going to look a lot better in the end. So I'm going to add the rope until I get to the edge of my tray. Now, once you get to the edge, you're going to continue to add a layer to the top. We're wanting to curve it around the edge. I'm going to continue to add rope to the outside layer. Then I'm going to flip my tray upside down and do the edges that you would see if the tray was sitting out. I'll continue to add hot glue and nautical rope. And then once I get to the inner portion, I'll stop there because that's going to be sitting where you're not going to be able to see it. I'll cut off the excess and hot glue the end. To style the tray, I'm going to use a Dollar Tree vase. I'm also going to use a pot that I already had with some florals that were in my stash. And then the candle is from Dollar Tree. I was so excited to find this candle this year. I wanted to show you guys a really fun paint technique you could do with Dollar Tree items. So what you're going to need to pick up is a mini broom from Dollar Tree. You're also going to need some kind of vase. Now my vase is from the thrift store and this thrifted vase looks great, but I was going for something a little bit different. So I wanted to paint it the colors that would work in my home. I wanted it to be a really dark green color. I didn't have a dark green color on hand, so I'm gonna mix the color Fern with a black paint color, and then that's gonna give me a really deep green color. And I'm just going to use a brush and paint one coat on the entire vase. Let that paint completely dry. Then when it has a chance to dry, you're gonna do our next paint technique with that mini broom that you picked up. So you need some kind of flat plate. You could use a paper plate or anything you have, and you're going to put a little bit of white acrylic paint onto your plate. Mix it with just a tiny bit of water. You want your paint to have kind of a really runny consistency. Now here's the fun part. You're going to take your brush and you're going to dab it into your paint. Then you're going to slowly paint and draw a line down your face. This is going to add a really fun textured effect. And the cool thing is you can add as much texture or as little as you want based on how much paint you add. So you can keep dipping it into the white paint and adding it to your face. Now, once I got done doing this, I felt like it was a little much. I wanted to mute the colors a little bit, so I put some of that green and black paint on another plate. And then I just dipped my brush back into that paint, and I'm just going to put that on top. That's just going to mute down my texture a little bit. But this is personal preference. I love paint techniques like this because you can completely customize it to the look that you prefer. Let your vase dry completely, and I'll show you how I styled it in my home. Hands down, I would have to say the most popular item right now at Dollar Tree are their beaded wreaths. If you can get your hands on these, definitely pick some up. I went ahead and picked up 3 of them when I was shopping at Dollar Tree, and I thought they would make a cool wall art piece. Dollar Tree also carries yarn, so I have 2 colors of yarn that just fit in well with my home decor. I went with a dark blue and a dark green. So on the beaded wreaths, there's an area where it has kind of like a metal closure. So I started at the metal closure and I counted up on either side to be 11 beads on either side. Then my first yarn that I was going to use was this dark blue yarn, and I hot glued it up to 11 beads. I did that on one side, brought it over and hot glued it on the other side. Then I began wrapping the beads around that 11th bead on both sides. I added in hot glue as needed because I wanted to essentially cover the entire bead. Once I did that, I hot glued it on the back and cut off any excess. Then I counted up 2 more beads and I came in with my green yarn, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Hot gluing on one side, then hot gluing on the other, continuing to wrap it and adding in additional hot glue. I cut off the excess when I got to the end of my green yarn. I repeated these steps with my other 2 beaded wreaths, doing them the exact same way. Now to finish these off so that I would be able to hang them on the wall, I had some faux leather twine. I'm gonna be using the gray color, and I just tied it together in a knot. I'm going to loop it through. Then to hang these on the wall, I'm just going to be using some clear command hooks. You can get these in a variety of sizes. I'm gonna add those to the wall. Now, when I started to add them to the wall, I realized my strings were a little bit too long, so I just tied them a bit shorter. And here's how this wall art turned out. If you have not checked out the new containers they have at Dollar Tree, you need to go look in the organizations section. I found these pink containers. I was so excited. I thought they would be perfect for organizing items in the bathroom, maybe in a drawer because they're so shallow. So I picked up 2 of these pink containers. Another item you can find at Dollar Tree is their peel and stick wallpaper. I really like this one with like the white and gold look, but there's probably, I think, 6 to 8 different options to choose from. So I'm gonna put the wallpaper at the bottom of these containers just to kind of finish them off, make them look a little bit more high end. So I put the wallpaper down, put my tray on top. I'm gonna use a pencil to draw around the bottom of my tray. Then I will cut it out. I'm going to place it at the bottom without peeling off the sticky, just to kind of figure out if I need to cut any additional off. Then I'm gonna freehand it, so I'll cut off any areas that need to be cut off, put it back into the container, and once I have it exactly how I want it, I'll pull off the sticky and place it down. I love the way they turned out, and they're gonna be perfect for my makeup. I love so many wall decor pieces that I find on high-end sites, and you could definitely create your own at home. For this next DIY, I'm gonna get 2 black 11 by 14 frames. I'm also going to use a new product at Dollar Tree, which is their removable wallpaper, as well as some greenery. I'm gonna spray the stems on the back and the front with a matte black spray paint. I'm gonna remove the contents from the frame and cut down the removable wallpaper so it fits into my frame. I'm gonna add the glass back into my frame and cut my stem with wire cutters. I'm gonna add in the wallpaper as well as the backing to my frame. Now with my next frame, I wanted to see if I liked it better without the glass in it. A lot of times I'll leave the glass out to see if I like the way that looks better. And I went ahead and removed the glass from the first frame. I repeated all the steps to create my second frame. These 2 frames look great in a pairing. I would say that glassware is one of the easiest things to recreate with Dollar Tree items. So I found this set of glass containers on Crate and Barrel's website. And then I went to Dollar Tree and I found these round glasses that I picked up. I also got some others that were in more of a smaller shape and picked those up for this next DIY. One of my least favorite things to do is remove Dollar Tree sticky labels. So I did that first. And then I also washed all the glasses so that they were nice and crystal clear. Once I got all that done, I put the 3 larger ones so they were facing upside down, so the bottoms of them were facing up. Then I'm gonna use E6000 on the base. Now, whenever you put E6000 on anything, you wanna make sure you let it dry overnight because it takes a while to cure. And then I'll put the smaller glass on top. I'll repeat those steps with the other 2 vases. You could put anything in these. If you wanted to put candles, you could. I decided I wanted to add a little bit of greenery. So I had these white rocks from Dollar Tree. I'm gonna put those in the top. And then I had these little sprigs of eucalyptus that I'm just going to add to the top of each of my glass jars. And here's how they look as a grouping of 3. You're going to need a mason jar or some type of jar. You're also going to need another little container for the top. I'm gonna be using this button container that you can get in the craft section at Dollar Tree. So I'm gonna start by gluing the mason jar lid to the outer rim so that this is one piece all stuck together. Then I'm going to remove the labels, which always takes the longest amount of time. I'm also gonna be using some Goo Gone to help me get those labels off. I'm gonna be spray painting both of the lids with the hammer colored spray paint. Once that dries, I'm going to assemble everything together. So I'm gonna take my clear jar and I'm going to use E6000 and hot glue and add it to the top of my mason jar lid. I'm gonna fill the bottom up with cotton balls. And with the top, I'm actually going to put in some Q-tips. Now, as I put in the Q-tips, I realized that the lid didn't fit on really well, but I figured since it was kind of at an angle, I could just leave the lid off and it would be a great way to store my Q-tips. Now, another organization item that I found at Dollar Tree was this iridescent jar. I absolutely love the way this jar looked, and the top was actually in a rose gold color, but I wanted the color to fit in just a little bit more with my color scheme. I'm gonna spray paint the lid with the hammered finish. I love to use jars like this to store my lipsticks in. I think it works out really well. I'm gonna show you how to display the Q-tip containers and the lipstick container on my rope tray that I made earlier, and I'm also going to add in a little succulent plant from Dollar Tree. I wanted to create a yarn bowl, but actually I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I'm gonna share with you what those are, so hopefully you don't make the same mistakes that I made. So what you're going to need for this project is some kind of bowl or dome. I found this one in the plant section at Dollar Tree and I thought it would be perfect because it was bendable. And I really still think this would be a good idea to use this. And you're also going to need a selection of yarn. I wanted mine to have like an ombre appearance, so I picked out 3 green yarn colors that I had in my stash, but go with whatever colors you want. Okay, so here was my first mistake. I decided to use Mod Podge. I think if I was doing this again, I probably would be using like a paper mache because I feel like that would have not stuck as much to my bowl. The other thing I probably should have done was put some kind of plastic wrap down over my bowl. At the end, everything was kind of stuck together. So let me walk you through what I did. First, I cut off some yarn, I threw it into a bowl, and I mixed it with some Mod Podge and water. I completely coated my yarn, but you could switch this up and just use paper mache. You don't have to use the Mod Podge. And then I started at the top of my bowl and just started creating a pattern where all of the yarn was touching together, and I was trying to make it nice and tightly wrapped so that when everything dried, the yarn bowl would hold together. So I wrapped all of my darkest yarn around first. Then I repeated those same steps with my middle colored green. I mixed it with some Mod Podge and I added that to the middle section of my bowl. I did the same thing with the light color. Now, when I was putting the light color on, I was getting a little bit farther down my dome, so I had to flip it over to make sure the yarn was nice and connected. And it can have some holes in it, and honestly, you want some holes because it gives it more of an organic yarn look. But for the majority of your bowl, you want it to be connected together. Now I let this dry for honestly a couple of days before I came back to the project. Overnight would be fine. But what happened was when I tried to disconnect the plastic from the yarn, it was sticking together. So I think if I would have put some plastic wrap in between, it may have released better as well. So I definitely struggled with it. I was cutting the plastic, trying to yank it up. At some point I was thinking this is gonna fall completely apart and it's not gonna work. Eventually was able to get it completely off. And then from there I had to do a little bit of repair. So I had some pieces that had come apart, so I just added on some additional Mod Podge to kind of hold it in place. Let that dry, and here's a look at this bowl. Now this is an organic bowl. You're not going to put a lot of things in there. You may be able to put 1 or 2 items, but it's just a fun decorative piece. I'm going to show you how to create a floral wall art piece. Now for this, you're going to need an embroidery hoop. You're also going to need some wood beads and some Dollar Tree florals. Now for this DIY, you're only going to need 1 of your hoops. I like to use the one that has the clamp at the top. I'm going to start by lining up all of my wood beads. Now you want the openings of your wood beads to all be in the same line, and I'm going to use E6000 to attach them together. Let your wood beads dry overnight to let that E6000 dry. Then I'm going to put some E6000 and hot glue on the end of my wood beads. I'll place it in the middle of my hoop, and to make it all go together, I'm just gonna clamp the hoop at the top. To make sure that it's extra strong, I'm gonna add additional hot glue to the back. Next is the fun part. You get to come in and add your floral stems. I'm gonna cut some of my Dollar Tree floral stems down, and I'm gonna add them to my wood beads. From there, you can hang it up in your home. You probably know that Dollar Tree has these little magnetic containers in a pack of 2. They also have this magnetic board that they sell in the frame section. So I thought this would be great for organizing items in a bathroom. I picked up the magnetic board and 3 of the packs of the metal tins, and I'm gonna use these to organize in my bathroom. I didn't paint or do anything to this. I'm just going to hang the magnetic board on my wall. You could also put this on a cabinet. I think that would work really well. You're gonna use some command strips on the back and just adhere it to the wall. Then with your containers, you can add in different things like hair accessories, you could add in bobby pins, rubber bands, really anything that you want to store that's a smaller item. And you can put them in your bins and put them up on the board. This board is going to hold 6 of the containers. So I picked up this easel and I'm going to update it just a little bit. So I have some wood beads that I buy off of Amazon. I'll link them for you down in the description box. I'm gonna hot glue these wood beads to the bottom of my easel just to kind of finish off the legs on the easel. After the glue dried, I wanted to spray paint this with a gold color. So I laid it on its side outside and I spray painted the underneath of my easel. Once that dried, I put it standing straight up and continued to spray paint it. I let that dry completely before I styled it. And to style this, I'm gonna use a print that I got at Dollar Tree. I'm gonna add that to my easel, but you could use any print that you have on hand, and this is an awesome easel. So I'm so excited Dollar Tree has these now. One of the things I love about Anthropologie is all of their colorful items. When I saw these colorful trays, I wanted to try to recreate them. So I picked up 2 trays at Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna start by spray painting them. I chose to spray paint one of them in a metallic gold, and the other one I went in with this deep burgundy color. I picked up this packet of floral wrapping paper on Amazon, and I thought it would be perfect to add that colorful element inside the tray. So I figured a blue one for the dark red, and then this pink one I was going to use with the gold. So I just cut off a section of the wrapping paper. Then to cut it out, I just set my tray on top and then I used a pin to draw around my tray. I'm gonna roughly cut it out and then I'm gonna set it in the middle of my tray. From there, I'm going to cut it down so it fits perfectly. I didn't really have a great solution for the square one, but I just cut it down till it was the right size and I curved around the edges. To add it to my tray, I put some Mod Podge onto my tray and used a foam brush to kind of spread that out evenly. I placed the paper down on top and I let that dry completely. Now to seal it, you can come in with an additional layer of Mod Podge over the top. Now with my other one, I traced around the edges and cut that out. Then I actually went around with my fingernail and made kind of an indentation and then cut that out so I could get a perfect cut. Now don't worry, you can always cut more if you need to. And then you can use these trays for anything. They make great decorative trays. You can also use them in your closet for all of your jewelry. Wall art can be really expensive when you buy it on high-end sites, but you can definitely recreate it at home. So for this DIY, you're going to need an 11 by 14 frame, 1 shower ring, and yarn of your choice. So you're gonna start by cutting your strips of yarn in pretty long strips. Next, you're going to double over the yarn, and then you're going to loop it through your shower ring. And you're gonna repeat this all the way around until your shower ring is covered. You're gonna place the shower ring with all the yarn on it in the middle of your 11 by 14 frame. And this is the part you can kind of adjust depending on your taste. You can put it directly in the middle or adjust it up or down. You're going to evenly place the yarn around your frame and hot glue it in place. Once it's dry, you can cut off the excess and then you can style it in your home. Dollar Tree now has an eco-friendly section on their website, and I was really drawn to these pencil organizers. I picked up 3 at my Dollar Tree. I wanted to create an organizer that I could set out on my desk, so I started by removing all of the plastic on the organizers. Now, Dollar Tree also has materials that you can use with your Cricut, and they have this faux leather material. So I'm gonna use the one in the black faux leather. I started by figuring out exactly where I wanted to add my leather. I'm going to fold the leather over, and then I'm gonna cut on that line as straight as possible. Now, I went ahead and tried to wrap it around my organizer and realized I didn't have enough space to cover the entire thing on the back. So I cut an additional piece that I could put on the back. Then I hot glued all 3 of them together so that they sat nicely in a row. I started by hot gluing my piece on the sides. I didn't add any hot glue to the front because I felt like it would look nicer and I wouldn't see that hot glue mark on the front. Then when I got to the back, I added in my filler piece on the back with some hot glue, and then I wrapped it around, making sure that my leather was at the same level on the back. Once I was done hot gluing, if I had any extra pieces I needed to cut off at the bottom, I just cut those off. And then I filled this with some markers that I could leave out on my desk. When I saw this pretty little dish on Pottery Barn's website, I knew that I had seen something similar in shape at Dollar Tree. They actually have these incense containers, so I picked up one of those, and then I'm just going to use some wood filler to fill in where the incense stick would go. Let that dry completely. If you need to add an additional coat, you can do that. And then I wanted it to have a really mirrored finish, so I found this mirrored spray paint at Home Depot, and I'm gonna spray a layer on the underside, let that dry completely, and then I did 2 coats on the front side. That was all I needed to do to this little trinket tray. This is perfect to put by your sink. You could put your rings or your jewelry on it.